Hello guys, how's it going? Moses here, and this is kind of a follow-up video that I've been wanting to make for quite some time. So I'm getting a lot of comments, okay? Recently, YouTube kind of like exploded, and a lot of new people coming in, a lot of new people watching the videos, and we're getting a lot of comments saying that this build is too expensive. Oh, another build I cannot afford. Oh, 100 exalted or build, and yeah, it's not for me, and all that kind of stuff. So in this video, I want to talk about how to make a build that you see, not necessarily in my channel, any build that you see, how to make it budget. Okay, because in Path of Exile, you don't have to go to the apps. Like, remember, guys, in order to have fun, you just need to create a character, have the idea, and then go with it. You don't have to do the absolute top content on every single build. You don't have to kill Uber Elder on every single build, and you don't have it, to happen in under 30 seconds. Uber Elder kill every time, right? So take it down a notch, and also hear me out here, because that's what we're gonna do. So I'm playing the game 24/7. Obviously I can afford everything, right? And I understand you guys don't have enough time to make as much currency as I'm making. I understand that you guys have your limitations, but I do want in this channel to allow you guys to try out the builds that I'm playing, even if it's in a slightly less expensive version, and even if it's in a slightly less efficient version. So let's take this build for example. Okay, let's take this build for example right here. I am using all sorts of fancy items that some of them are crafted, some of them I invested quite a lot to craft in, and some of them are going to be very expensive. One of these is this jewel right here. May not look like much, but this is in fact a pretty insane jewel. If I would put it on PoE trade right now, it will most likely sell for about 15 exalted orbs. If not 20, if not 25. Seriously, there's nothing quite like it, and I've checked, and maybe someone is crazy enough to pay about 30 exalts for this jewel even. 25, 20 exalts. Obviously, you don't need a jewel like that for this build to work. Having a jewel like that sure does feel nice, and sure does make the build feels shiny, and all the good stuff. But remember, I crafted this and I hit a pretty nice roll, and actually didn't even take me all that many fossils to craft. So you can do it too, right? If you're lucky, you're lucky, and I got lucky with this one. I also got kind of lucky, also kind of unlucky with this one. Good flat rolls, some life, and exalt, chance to avoid, chance to avoid. So how to make a build budget? Okay, let's look at this character and break it down and look at the stuff that makes the build expensive, and how you can make it a whole lot cheaper and still enjoy a very, very affordable version of this character without committing too much. Alright, so let's start. This is a 2120 consecrated path gem. Okay, I paid 1.5 exalt for it when at the time that I was looking for it. There were basically two online. One guy wanted 2 exalts, the other guy wanted 2.5. I talked to both of them, I whispered them 1.5. They sold me for one of them sold me for 1.5. Awesome. The way that you can make the build cheaper is simply level up the gem as you go along. It will reach level 20, you flip it, it gets the quality, and then it gets to 20 and 20 eventually as you play the build. Remember, this is what we used to do when the league first started and everybody was broke and nobody had the money to buy a 2120 gem. So this is, if you're on a budget, right, this is something you should do. You go to the vendor, enact whatever, and you buy the gem, and it costs you nothing. And you level up, the gem gets experience, you flip it, 2020, easy clap. You don't have to spend 1.5 exalt, okay? The build will still work. One item. Another item, 10 Exalted Orb Tomb Fist that I then spent about 7 or 8 Divine Orbs to get the perfect 10-6 rolls because they have 2 variants. Obviously, you know, you don't have to pay 10 Exalts for a pair of these. 2 sockets are always going to be better than 1, no doubt about it. This is a physical damage stacking build. The more jewels we have to stack our physical damage, the more damage we'll make. But if you're on a budget version, you can buy a pair of these gloves for like 5 chaos for 1 socket. They're like 2 chaos, 3 chaos. Extremely cheap. So the difference between 10 exalts right now, 2,000 chaos. Exalted orbs are 200 chaos a pop right now. 2 months into the league, a month and a half into the league, which is insane. But 2,000 chaos I paid for this stupid pair of gloves. It's ridiculous. Sure, but you don't have to. So you can buy a pair of gloves like these for 1 or 2 or 3 chaos or whatever it is they cost right now. Alright? There you go. 6-link body armor. We talked about it. It is better if you buy your 6-link rather than try and link it. But you don't have to go for a 6-link. You know, over here I'm using increased area of effect and then conk effect for bossing. This is my setup, right? So you can just get rid of 1 link and you won't have the increased area of effect. This is how you're gonna look like. Okay, instead of this. It doesn't even look that much different. Sure, it's more area, but if you're on a budget, you can just run with a 5-link. Guys, and a 5-link lore weave, even with 80 to all resist, you can find for as low as 40-50 chaos right now. Okay? Which is very, very, very affordable, and a 5-link will definitely do the job. You don't have to go for a near perfectly rolled lore weave that I corrupted just for the kicks of it because, you know, I don't care, so I just freaking vowed it for the sake of the viewers to have fun. Maybe I'll brick it and everybody will laugh at me. You know, it's an added value. Didn't brick it, didn't happen. Instead I got +2 projectiles. Nobody really cares in this particular build, but, you know, it did roll pretty exceptionally good because I divined it quite a few times in order to get this roll, right? So this is what we do. Mark of the Elder, if you look at the rolls, you see it has 10% maximum life, it has 79, which is 1 off of perfect, of, you know, the increased attack damage of the other is the Shaper. This ring, I actually dropped because I've been farming a lot of Uber Elders and I found it. But if you look for similar one, it will cost you about 1 exalt. This ring does not have to be 1 exalt. You can easily find a 7 or an 8% max life with 72 attack damage for about 5 chaos. Okay? There you go. This ring is a steel ring, okay, of Shaper. In order to enable Mark of the Elder, we want a Shaper's ring. But it doesn't have to be a steel ring. Steel rings are relatively cheap. I found this one for only 1 exalt, and then I crafted it myself with alterations. I got, you know, the flat fizz, I augmented cold res, I regaled life, and then I multi-modded a rare ring with these 3 stats. You know, but you don't have to have that, right? You can just find any resistance ring, and then your build will work just as fine. You can find rings that are Shaper rings for 10 chaos that will serve the purpose of having flat physical, of having some life and some resist, and that's all you want, right? You don't want the fancy curse on hit rings for this particular build because that's the way I chose to gear it up. We're not using curse. The curses that we're using is actually a damage reduction curse over here. Alright? Another example. 6-link sword. I barely even use my Ancestral War Chiefs. I don't even use them. Right? So obviously this is a null and void argument. You don't need a 6-link for your Ancestral War Chiefs. You know, a 4-link will work just as fine. And Void Forge, I paid 5 exalts for this one because it was 6-linked and it rolled near perfect, as you can see. Maximum attack speed, almost maximum physical damage, and you know, 90 to 100 life. Nobody really cares. The difference is negligible. What you do want is 90 plus
physical damage and 7 plus attack speed. You know, keep it on the high side. And a sword like this is about 15 chaos. Okay, it does not have to be 6 link. You can work with a 5 link. You can buy the Jeweler's Touch, which is a prophecy. I believe right now sells for like 10 chaos. And you can run with a 5 link just as easily. Let's continue. This is a pretty insane build, right? It has elemental damage, lightning damage, elemental damage attacks, almost 60 hour resist, and tier 1 life, right? So a build like this probably going to cost 13 exalts, 12 exalts, somewhere around that area, but you don't have to have that, right? You can just settle for life, resist, elemental damage attacks, and you can find a very, very, very solid build just like this for roughly 20-30 chaos. Alright, that's basically it. Helmet. I crafted this one. It took me 5 pristine fossils to hit just resist, life, and I crafted the resist. The helmet itself, because it has consecrated path enchant, was about 1 exalt I believe I paid, but you don't have to have the enchant, right? And all of a sudden, a build that took me about 30 exalts to make, roughly, I just throwing an estimate, all of a sudden a build like that goes down to about 2 exalts. And you can absolutely make a build like this that will run almost just as smoothly, to be honest, for very, very little currency. Alright, let's go to a different character and show you something I was using. Yeah, let's look at this Caswell channeling character. Over here, it's another Scion. I love Scion. You guys know this used to be a build that I ran the cast on crit. Right? Remember that cast on crit, the Cyclone. I didn't like it, decided to scrap it, but made my Elementalist cast while channeling, transferred all the gear over here. Alright, so let's look at what we have. Super fancy gloves. Obviously you don't need to have those are about 20 exalts, 15 exalts. You don't need, you don't even need, but you could use gloves with fingerless silk gloves with just an implicit roll of some spell damage, some life, some resist. Outside of the fanciness of these gloves, we see 78 life and tier 1 cold resist. That's it, and that's basically all you need. Some life, some resist. The staff, sure, it's the perfect, absolute perfect crafted staff that you can possibly get, and sure, this staff is about 25 exalts, because the ridiculous amount of investment that is required to get these exact mods when we're talking about fossil crafting, etheric fossils to be specific, and the amount of gamble required to get cast while channeling and more spell damage on a rare staff that then can have only these 2 stats and then be modified, multi-modded to then have the rest of the other perfect rolls of everything else that we need. But you don't need to have that. A cast while channeling staff is just fine. If you have a couple of etheric fossils, try to hit spell damage, try to hit the cast while channeling, obviously, and then some other stuff. Etheric fossils create some seriously strong staffs that even without the multi-mod are still going to be extremely strong and allow you to enjoy a build like this for way cheaper. You don't have to go Moses ham on a piece of staff, and it took me about, I believe, around 700 or 800 etheric fossils to craft this staff, and then annulment orbs, and it was a whole mess. I was hell bent on getting the more spell damage and the cast while channeling, and I spent an infinite amount of resources, honestly. And you don't need to do that. To enjoy the build, again, you just need the cast while channeling, and that's basically it. A 6-link shaper staff like this should cost around 3 exalts, not 30 or 25 or 20 or whatever my current staff is worth. Again, when we're talking about spells, we have Winter Orb, it's a 2120, Ice Spear, 2120. This particular one was like 3 exalts, this was like 1.5 exalts, a bit cheaper. But again, you can just level up the gems, the damage will come, you level it up. Make sure to have in your off weapons some other Winter Orbs and some other Ice Spears that you can then Val and hope to get a 21 corrupted one, right? But until you get that, it's perfectly fine and your damage is going to be almost the same. The thing about Path of Exile that I want to kind of like convey here in this video is that there is like the added benefit of the investment. The more currency that you put, you sink in a build, the actual percentage of increase of effectiveness that this build will have is going to be relatively small. You're going to be investing an infinite amount of currency, but the benefit that you're going to be getting is going to be such a small increment that is almost not going to be noticeable. So a build like what I currently have, if you look at all the like various pieces of gear, this is like not the best helm. I could have crafted something better, but I didn't. You know, this is again not the best belt. I actually picked up a different belt because elemental damage and, you know, the life and the resist, so I just use a belt that I have. But, you know, if we look at these boots are kind of insane with so much resist, so much life, 30 movement speed, and damage penetration. Again, you don't have to have all of every single one of these items to make this build work. Obviously, this is a pretty insane Ruby Ring over here with damage against ignited enemies, Warlord's Mark, tier 1 life, so much resist, so much everything. Again, pretty insane gear overall. Chest, by the way, it doesn't even need to be 6-link, just you want good stats on it. If you're looking at the jewels can get very expensive. You know, spell damage, crit multi, life, spell damage, cast speed, crit multi, life. Everything is projectile damage, crit multi, life, mana. We are Mind Over Matter, so it benefits our build. Again, Unnatural Instincts. Natural Instinct, by all means, not a jewel that is a must-have. Sure, it's like 15 exalts. This build overall is probably around 100 exalts, give or take. If you look at every single piece and you price it in pure trade and you kind of like want to sell this as a whole, I would say, you know, this ring is about 20x. I don't know, this jewel maybe not that great, but still very good for this particular build. The staff, the gloves, they're all very, very insane, high-end, top, you know, multi-modded shenanigans, fossil crafted. Everything is on the very high end of whatever the game has to offer. But again, I mean, here we got what, double crit multi, some life, and I exalted that bleed and bleed duration. Kind of sad actually on a cobalt jewel to get a bleed roll. But you know, you see what I'm trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, you don't have to have the absolute top. Like when I show you a build on my channel and when you see other people's builds, unless it is specified, you know, you can totally make a version of a budget build. And what I used to do in Diablo, back when I was a Diablo streamer, is we used to do giveaways. I used to make a build on stream back when trading was a thing and back when the auction house was a thing. We're talking 5-6 years ago. You know, I would make my own version of the build. Obviously, I would have much gold, and my gear would be really insane and sick. And then I would make a budget version. And I would give it away, and it's something I would love to do on Path of Exile. We just can't because GG decided to meddle in streamers' business, essentially, and not allow me the opportunity to give something to my community. And in the end, what happens is that all these exalts are just rotting in Standard League. You know, in every league, if we look, you know, every league, just get to a random character, it all kinds of like, it adds up. And then we have some more and more exalted orbs and like just infinite currencies all coming into Standard, and everything kind of like gets dumped into Standard, and, you know, nobody makes use of it. And it just sits here for no reason, where I could have my viewers you know, get a random gift from me once every couple of days on stream. We could do like a nice little happy little giveaway and give, like, if I'm making a build, I can make a budget version of this build and show you how you can make a build in like that's going to feel exactly like the build I'm running, only instead of 100 or 80 or 70 or 60 exalts or whatever it is that I'm building, make instead you know, a 2 exalted orb version of this build and just give it away. I don't understand why GGG is not allowing me to do stuff like that. Honestly, I don't think it's any of their business what I do with my currency if I want to give it to my viewers, but obviously it's a bannable offense. I don't see the point. I think that it's actually pretty sad that I'm unable to do stuff like that on stream for my own community. I don't think it's anybody's business. I'm playing, I'm grinding all the time. I get so much currency and all gets shipped to standard, and I got nothing to do with it in the end. So, you know, whatever. So I'm just using some flashy items, but in the end, when you see a build like I'm running, you can absolutely make it. It doesn't have to be a 6-link, doesn't have to be, you know, 2120 gems, doesn't have to be 2-socket Tomb Fist, doesn't have to be Shaper's Ring, it doesn't have to be super multi-modded, high-end, top tier, doesn't have to have the helm enchant. It really doesn't have to have all those things, I promise you guys. And the result is, sure, going to be less effective, maybe a little less fun, maybe slightly less smooth, because you're not going to have the shiny, awesome, you know, super perfectly rolled or nicely rolled items that I have, but you'll be able to experience the build, and you'll still be able to have fun playing it, and you'll still be able to, you know, test it out, do some grinding, and see what it feels like, and just test it out, even if it's not very highly commitment like I am doing, you know, playing 12 hours a day, streaming all the time, and getting all the currencies and investing in ridiculous items like you see here, or stuff that you see on other people's channels and other people's content creations and everything that other people are doing. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope it gives you an idea, and I hope you don't get discouraged whenever you see, you know, a build that I'm running that has all these really expensive items that you can't currently afford. If you play, you'll be able to afford. If you don't have the time, you can make budget versions of the stuff that you see on my channel, and they will work just as fine. Okay, I can promise you that. Alright, so thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you guys on stream, and take care, everybody. Bye bye.